This is my wrap up for weeks 10 and 11 of 2018, which are the weeks that include March 4th through March 17th. Hey y'all, it's Jen and welcome back to my channel Iffer's Inklings. Today I am going to be talking about the books that I read for the weeks of March 4th through March 17th, which are weeks 10 and 11 of 2018. I have 7 books to talk about because I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I just soaked up these audiobooks because I was really slumpy and this was getting me out of my slump, quite honestly. I listen to a lot of contemporary books. It's what I was in the mood for, and so I just went with it. So the first book that I listened to was Mockingbird by Catherine Erskine, I believe is how you say it. This is a middle grade contemporary book, and it follows a girl who has Asperger's, high functioning autism. The book starts out with her, where we find out that her brother has been killed in a school shooting. She is being raised by her single father because her mother died when she was little, and I forget what the reason was. But so her single father is dealing with the grief of losing his son to a school shooting. It was a middle school school shooting, and also raising a girl with Asperger's who is a 5th grader. I found this book to be very realistic, especially where the girl was dealing with grief, because watching my niece try and deal with the grief of losing her mother, they don't deal with grief. It's kind of an out of sight, out of mind kind of emotion for them. They do have the emotions, but they don't know how to recognize them, and they don't know how to deal with them, and they don't know how to deal with other people's grief. I really found her, the main characters, and I can't remember her name, but I really found her portrayal of dealing with this grief to be very spot on. She did also have other anxiety related outbursts. I don't know exactly what the right word is I'm looking for, but it showed that very well. It showed the lack of socialization and making friends very well. It showed a lot of things very well. I was very, very impressed by the portrayal of the autistic girl in this book. I did borrow this book from my library using their Overdrive app, and I gave this book 5 stars. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. The next book I listened to is actually one I own, and that is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I actually own 2 copies of this. I have this one, and I have this other older version here that was a library book, actually. It's actually a library book from the middle school that I worked for, and they were getting rid of a bunch of books, and this is one of them that didn't make the cut to keep in our library, and so I just couldn't let it go into the dumpster by any means. I added it to my collection. So I own 2 books now. This is one of my favorite stories of all time. If you've followed my channel, you know that I love Peter Pan, probably because I don't want to grow up. I never really got much of a childhood. I was always taking care of somebody. My sister was 8.5 years younger than me, and my mother became chronically ill shortly after giving birth to my sister, and so I've kind of always been a caretaker. So obviously I gave this 5 stars because I love this book so much. And if you don't know what the story of Peter Pan is, by all means, go pick it up and read about it. There were some very humorous moments. I found myself laughing so much during some of these. And And I wish that I could have bookmarked them so I could read a couple of the quotes that really just had me rolling. Definitely made for more for the adult reading this story than the kids. The kids probably wouldn't have gotten it, but I found them hysterical. I also really love the story of just J.M. Barrie himself. Peter Pan is kind of based off of a group of boys that he took in. He didn't have any children of his own. This group of boys, one of them was named Peter. He met them and their mother in the park one day and just befriended them and was telling them stories and met up with them very regularly to do so. There was some speculation over the years that J.M. and the mom had an affair, but there's really nothing substantial about that to back that up. But he was close to the family, and when the mom and dad of this other family, when they died from illnesses, he actually became the guardian and adopted the 4 boys. And one of the things that he did before he died was he made sure that all of the rights to and royalties from the sale of Peter Pan in any form goes to one of the local hospitals over there. And to this day, that children's hospital still gets royalties from the sale of Peter Pan. So even though I did listen to this on audio, I borrowed it from my library to listen to it, even though I do own the physical copy. And this book did also go towards a Book Riot Read Harder Challenge prompt, and that was prompt number 11, a children's classic published before 1980. The next book that I read was a Casey West book. It is her most recent book, Love, Life, and the List. This is a young adult contemporary romance book so in this book, Abby is best friends with her friend Cooper. They've been best friends since they were children. One fateful summer, she confesses her love to him, and he just kind of freaks out about it, and so she plays it off as it was a joke. But she's always had this unrequited love for him. And so this summer is the summer before their senior year, and it's just her and Cooper there for the summer because their other 2 friends in the group have gone off to, one to do some mission work and one to on a family vacation with her parents, who have forbidden the use of the cell phone. Cooper and Abby have this summer without the other 2 friends, and one of the things that Abby really wants to do is become an artist. She does a great job at art already, but she wants to be featured in the museum gallery that she works for in their amateur show. She is ultimately shot down and told that she doesn't have enough life experience coming through her artwork, that while her artwork is good, it's kind of boring. It doesn't invoke any emotion. So with the help of her grandfather and mother, she comes up with this list of 10 things to do over the summer to gain experience and to help her become a better artist through life experience. Well, she drags best friend Cooper along for the ride. And through completing these lists, you know how the story goes. It's a classic contemporary YA. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was real well written. Casey West is one of my favorite young adult contemporary authors. I gave this one 4 stars. I was not surprised that I really enjoyed it. One of my favorite tropes is the best friends to lovers kind of thing. So this kind of checked every check box off that I really liked. Obviously, this one also went towards my year of Casey West. The next book that I read was Lucky in Love, which follows a girl who wins the lottery on her 18th birthday. She works for the zoo, and her name's Maddie, and she works at the zoo with a boy named Seth, who she's been crushing on. But she wins the lottery on her birthday after none of her friends show up for her birthday party. And her life changes, as, you know, anybody's life would at the age of 18 who wins the lottery. So ultimately, the only person that treats her normal is Seth. And she really falls more and more in love with him as the book goes on. There's a lot of miscommunication, which is not a trope that I really enjoy. I don't care for the miscommunication trope, but I found this book to be very realistic as far as how anybody would react if they were 18 years old and won the lottery. She was real naive. She wanted to help out all her family. She wanted to kind of be the popular kid, but she didn't want it because she wasn't really before, but the popular kids were, you know, excited because, you know, she was just throwing money around. I gave it 4.5 stars. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one. It's young adult contemporary, and it's by Casey West. So, of course, it also went for my A Year of West. Actually, I gave this one 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars because I did not enjoy the miscommunication trope in this very much. So the next book that I read was The Distance Between Us by Casey West, and this one I gave 4.5 stars. And this book follows Cayman, who meets Xander, and Xander is a rich boy and Cayman is not rich. He is her and her mom's a single mom whose family kind of disowned her when she found out she was pregnant. The dad's family paid her off to not have any communication with them, and the dad disappeared. So it's just been Cayman and her mom. They own this little shop and doll shop, and one day Xander comes in to buy a doll for his grandmother's birthday, and they kind of take off from there. Their relationship kind of takes off from there. Cayman is absolutely no interest in falling for this boy because he is a rich boy, and rich boys leave you high and dry. They only want you for one thing, because that is what her mom has always taught her. They can't be trusted. It's a young adult romance, so you know how this story turns out. I actually really enjoyed this one. I really loved the character of Cayman. She was spunky and she was sarcastic, and she was just everything that I like in a 17-year-old girl, really. Smart, caring. She really cared about her friends and her mom, but didn't really care about anything else as far as being popular or any of that. And Xander wasn't a bad character either. There was some miscommunication in here. That was one of the tropes, which isn't my favorite, but I really enjoyed this book, and I really enjoyed how it ended up, and the ending was wrapped up. So I gave it 4.5 stars. And of course, this one goes with my Year of Casey West as well. And with this one, it did finish all of the Casey West books except for her duology, which is, I believe, a little bit more fantasy or sci-fi. I haven't read those 2 yet, but I have now read all of her contemporary books, except for the one that's coming out later this year. Now, because I was really wanting to stay on this YA contemporary kick, and I wanted to read authors that were similar to Casey West, I sent out a message to the Twitterverse and asked for recommendations, and I got some good responses. My library had several of them. All of these I did end up listening to on audio, all the Casey West books as well. I listened to them on audio through my library and through the Overdrive app. So I went looking for some recommendations from that was given to me on Twitter, and I've got 2 more books to talk about. One, I discovered that Laini Taylor's a Night of Cake and Puppets, which is her short story novella about Susanna and Mick from the Daughter of Smoke and Bones series, was available on audio from my library, so I grabbed it up and listened to it. It's no surprise, it was 5 stars. This really just follows the little bit of Susanna and Mick's relationship, so that we get a detailed account of what happened, how that got started, where we didn't get that in the actual books of The Daughter and Smoke and Bones. We don't get the full story in those, so we get it in this novella, and it was so cute and so amazing. I love Susanna. She is like such an amazing character. And I want her for my best friend because she's little and she's spunky and she is just adorable. Or at least I imagine her to be, you know. So I gave that one 5 stars. It is a young adult sci-fi fantasy novella. So the next book, and the final book that I read for these 2 weeks, was This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith. And it is the first book in a series, I guess. And the series is the same title. Because this book is about a girl who starts talking to a guy over email. It just happens to be a mistyped email address that gets them talking, but they continue to talk for several months, sharing personal details, all this. Well, it turns out that, first of all, they live on opposite ends of the coast. One of them is in a small town in Maine, and the other one is in a big city in California. It turns out that the guy is a celebrity movie star, and he's in the middle of filming a movie, and they need a small beach town. And when the first one falls through in, I think, South Carolina, then he suggests this little small beach town in Maine because he wants to meet Ellie. And so Ellie is very distrustful. She was like, I don't want anything to do with this Graham guy. He's a movie star and I'm just not interested. Until she realizes that Graham is actually the guy that she's been talking to over email all of these times. She's a little pissed off at first, understandably so, but then their romance kind of continues. There's some little twists and turns in this book that make things a little bit hard. There's a little bit of miscommunication, but I really enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I would. I really fell in love with these characters, and I really enjoyed the story. I'm interested to see what the next book holds. Is it a continuation of Graham and Ellie's story, or is it a companion novel? I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm definitely going to, because I want to see how this story continues. And that's it for the books that I read in weeks 10 and 11 of 2018. Let me know what you thought of these books. If you have read them or if you are planning on reading them, I'd love to have a conversation with you down in the comments below. As always, if you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so you can be notified when I upload more videos. And be sure and follow me on social media. All of my links will be listed down below. I always update Goodreads religiously with the books that I'm reading, and I try and update my progress along with the books as well, so you can kind of see my thoughts as I'm going along. And I do also do some updating on Instagram and Twitter as well. So that does it. And as always, until next time, bye.